Okay, I think we get started. So welcome all of you to this to our webinar, Learning from Leaders, examples from workforce nutrition in supply chains for employees and for workers. And my name is Bärbel Walligmann. I'm working for GAIN, and I will moderate this. I will guide you through the session. And I'm so happy because we have more than 100 registrations. So there is really an interest in the topic, and we have a lot of diverse companies joining us and people really interested in the area of practical examples. And we have 5 wonderful women that will today who are passionate about nutrition at the workplace. And I like you to use the chat. So we have the chat for the Q&A. The Q&A. I like to use the Q&A with all your questions. We will have presentations, and then we have in the end 50 minutes for really live Q&A. And so I really like to use you to start with a to use this Q&A. And before, so the program is very beautiful. I promise you an beautiful program. So first of all, we will start with a business case for workforce nutrition. What is our offering? Then we have the results of the Work Benchmark Alliance with a recent benchmark. Then we have 3 examples: 1 workforce nutrition reaching the supply chains, 1 workforce nutrition reaching the employees from Grupo Bimbo in Mexico, and 1 workforce nutrition reaching employees via food services. So it's really a wonderful spectrum with different regions and different areas to reach employees. I like now to give the floor to Christina Nyhus-Dhillon. She is the lead of the workforce nutrition team in Geneva and the workforce nutrition program. She is a wonderful, passionate person, and I will hand over to you to tell us more about the business space.
Thank you, Barbara. I appreciate it. And thanks to everyone on behalf of GAIN and the Workforce Nutrition Alliance. Thanks to our panelists and to those who are participating. We hope from this session you get a good sense from a lot of these front-runner companies on what can be done, but also from World Benchmarking Alliance on what more can be done. And I think there's a lot of room, a lot of opportunities and a role for everyone in this space. Just a little bit about GAIN. We're a Swiss-based foundation based in Geneva with offices across Asia and Africa, and our mission is to advance nutrition outcomes, particularly among the most vulnerable. I'll talk a little bit about workforce nutrition on behalf of the Workforce Nutrition Alliance, which we co-lead with Consumer Goods Forum, and why we believe workforce nutrition is so important. And it's such a great opportunity for reaching people with this kind of pervasive problem that we have about malnutrition. It's an incredible opportunity, and we really hope that more and more people become engaged in it. So what do we know? We know that malnutrition is very pervasive, both in terms of kind of underweight, malnutrition, hidden hunger, micronutrient deficiencies, but also overweight and obesity, which is increasing on our planet. 1 in 3 people at least are malnourished in some form. We also have a large body of the population who attends work every day, and it's a great opportunity to reach them. And finally, we know there's a business case for employers, for individuals to address malnutrition. This has been shown, and hopefully we can discuss it a little bit here. Just to say that our ambition with the Alliance is to try to reach at least 3 million employees with impact by 2025. So what are what is the business case for investing in the nutrition of workers? There, as you can see from the slide, there's a combination of both hard and soft returns that have been shown. So we have cases like from Johnson & Johnson, who have integrated nutrition into their health and wellness programs that have shown a 6-to-1 return on investment. Some of the breastfeeding at work programs have a 3-to-1 return on investment that is well shown, well proven. But with GAIN, we've also looked with some of our partners in the cocoa, tea, and garment sector, and they've communicated that some of these softer returns are as important or more important in the long term than on the immediate financial return. Also, as part of the Workforce Nutrition Alliance, we've been able to define in an attempt to help people work towards workforce nutrition, what are the program elements that have shown impact on nutrition? These are they. The first one is improving access to healthy food at work through midday meal provisions or anything from vending machines. It's quite a wide array. The second is supporting women returning to work after delivering to continue just to breastfeed. The third is around providing workers with their health status, their diet-related health status, and follow-up dietary counseling. And the fourth is around nutrition education. They all have shown impact on nutrition outcomes for workers. And then finally, the Workforce Nutrition Alliance recognizes that this is not necessarily straightforward for a lot of employers to implement. And so we're working together with our partners to try and demystify this and make this easier for you all to implement. We have a self-assessment scorecard online on our website. And then as well as once you've identified if you would like to do something, we have a wide range of technical partners who can provide one-to-one expertise. We have a technical support program in which you can engage with. It's a 5-month-long program. And then, of course, we have peers like those in our webinar today who can share their experiences and encourage others to join. So I'll end there and happy to take questions later on the Alliance or anything around workforce. And very happy to pass over to Viktoria de Bourbon de Parme from the World Benchmarking Alliance. And she's going to present some of the results from the latest that they have developed. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Christina, and great to see you all in such large attendance for this. And I'm excited to share with you the work of the World Benchmarking Alliance and indeed the results we've gathered assessing 350 companies. So just for the few of you that don't know the organization, I'll just mention a few words so you get the context. By the way, I'm Viktoria. I'm leading the food and agriculture work at the WBA, and our goal is really to measure companies' performance against the SDGs. So we share all our results and our key findings and our methodologies online, which are being used by the companies themselves, but also investors, governments, and civil societies. So as I said, the SDGs are really at the heart of our organization, and we've translated them into 7 different systems. So we work within these 7 different systems. And so zooming in on food and agriculture, we have assessed 350 companies, but broadly within WBA, we are assessing over 2,000 companies on SDG metrics. So we've built upon existing measurements, existing metrics, like in the case of workforce nutrition, of course, really taking these 4 pillars that Christine has mentioned at the core. But we've made a broader assessment, nutrition being one of the 3 thematic areas, so really representing 30% of a total score. Of course, a benchmark comes with a ranking, so I'll share with you the link to our results and to the ranking in the chat shortly. But so we've assessed 350 companies along 45 different indicators spread out from nutrition, environment, social inclusion, and governance and strategy. The companies that were represented in these 350 are really across the entire value chain, as you will also see from the speakers here today. So the companies ranged from agriculture input all the way to caterers at the end. So these are all our 45 different topics that we've assessed. I will not run through all of them, but you can find more information on our website. But you've seen highlighted the topics that we looked at for nutrition. And of course, one of the important topics there was workforce nutrition. So we found that these 350 companies, which represent over half of global revenue in the world, actually employ over 23 million people. So it can be really a catalyst in driving better nutritional intake for these people. As Christina mentioned, the big necessity for improved nutrition for so many people around the world. So this can be through direct employees, it can be really catalytic, not just for SDG 2, 3, but also 5. It's really about health and well-being, about gender equality, and about zero hunger. So the 4 pillars that Christina laid out, those of workforce nutrition, have been completely integrated in our assessment. And we looked at all of those 4, whether a company is actually implementing those, are they implementing it on a project basis, or across their entire operation, and are they implementing one or more, and perhaps also sharing more evidence about the results of these programs, which would, of course, as are great learning to others as well, and will surely incentivize others to take up this programs as well, given the incredible impact it can have. So we've seen that there's big potential, because as you see on the screen, so there's a dividance of around 20% of companies, which is a good score, but there's really a big room for improvement. But 20% of the companies in scope, which is over 70 companies, have actually implemented one of the programs suggested by the Workforce Nutrition Alliance. And more than 14 companies have actually implemented 2 of those programs. Those are great results to see, and I'm sure many of the companies you are representing today are within that front-running batch, and really can drive change within the entire sector. So we've looked at, as I said, 350 companies in 6 different segments. So I've made a segment overview of the different parts of the value chain. So you see that actually for agricultural input companies, quite a lot, 40% have engaged with workforce nutrition programs, and the front runners there are the companies OCP, UPL, and Sumitomo. Then from agriculture, product and commodities, it was a lower representation. It was only 70% that are engaged, but we will hear from an incredible front runner in that segment, Olam, later in this presentation today. So excited to hear about how they have integrated these programs, and they've really set a very ambitious target to reaching 100% of their workforce with these programs by 2030. So a big accreditation for doing so, which is great. In the third segment we've assessed, which is animal proteins, we saw 2 of the seafood companies that are the front runners. You see them on their screen, Nuova Pesca and Parle Fleet van der Plas. Then we looked also at the food and beverage manufacturers. This was a very large group of companies that fall within this segment, as some companies are vertically integrated. So a quarter of them are implementing workforce nutrition programs. We will hear from one of them today, Grupo Bimbo, who is also one of the front runners, and implementing at least 2 of the workforce nutrition pillar programs. So that's really great that they've already incorporated that across their operations. In food retailers, you see that it's this starting to become apparent as well. 22% on the top of my mind. It's I've put it on the wrong. It's Coles Group and I've put it on the wrong. Coles Group and Colriet that are implementing these programs. I've put it on the lower deck in this slide. And then for restaurants and food service companies like caterers, we were here today from Compass Group, how they are integrating these programs. And there we see also Sodexo and Cisco that are really, that have already at least implemented one of these workforce nutrition programs. So great leadership across the board, across the value chain. So it's not just about direct employees, but really also about reaching farmers and reaching others as well in the value chain. So I mentioned we've integrated these 4 pillars. On the right-hand side of your screen, you see the scoring guideline. We have shared this online as well, how we have built up the score that companies for this assessment, for the WBA Food and Agriculture Benchmark Assessment could receive. So that explains the different scores of the different companies. So we've looked at whether there's an integration or one or more of these programs, and then additional points could be received if there is quantitative evidence. As I said, really evidence about the impact that this is making, and the percentages perhaps also about in the cafeteria offerings of healthy options. So really making it time-bound and measurable, and making sure that companies really push themselves to improve on this matter. So looking forward to today's discussion and hearing from the companies present here today. And please drop questions in the Q&A, but we'll also have a broader Q&A session later. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Victoria. And now we come to the next speaker. And the next speaker is Sarah Rosen. And Sarah is in fact the person that was completely involved in the nutrition strategy of Olam, and it's amazing what you could set up, Sarah. And I'm very pleased that you are with us.
Thank you so much, Barbara. Thank you so much to everyone for joining us today. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. As Barbara mentioned, my name is Sarah Rosen. I'm a senior strategist for Olam International. For those of you that might not be familiar with our work, Olam is a global food and agriculture company really operating across the food system. We are farmers, we are suppliers, we are processors, we are innovators. And being really inside of the food system, sustainability is embedded in the way that we work, because the very viability of the business itself, it relies on the ability to produce more of better quality, but with less, right? We need to feed and nourish a growing population without it costing the earth. So I work in the sustainability department, which is responsible for partnering and advising with our internal business units to turn our sustainability aspiration into practice. And this involves developing strategies, tools, approaches for different key topics, including nutrition, which is of course the topic of our discussion today. And one of the things that motivates me so much to do this work at Olam is really the ability to act at scale and influence. In 2021, we were operational in over 60 countries in 47 different products and value chains with a workforce of over 80,000. So why workforce nutrition? I think it boils down to these three figures that you see here on the screen. We know that poor diet is the #1 driver of the global burden of disease and early death. So if we want to make a positive impact on any aspect of social or economic sustainability, we must look at diets. When we analyzed our own workforce, we saw that just over 3/4 of it is working in countries where stunting is either 20% or higher still, or where overweight and obesity is over 45%, and sometimes these are the very same countries. So clearly this is an issue that touches the people that we employ. And as we heard from Christina in the beginning, we know that most adults spend a majority of their awake time in a working context. So there's huge potential to make a difference. At this time, the global food system is in the spotlight. And I think that we often talk about better diets being an outcome of this transformed food system that we know needs radical change in the way that it's being impacted by climate change, and the way that that accelerates the negative impacts that we're seeing on livelihoods, on health, on social equity. But I think that we should also think about better diets as an input to food systems transformation, because they also have a key bearing on productivity, on education, on social inclusion, and can help pull some of the other transformational actions along that we do need for that transformation. So that's a really key part of our motivation as well. So earlier this year, we set this target that you see here up on the screen, to have 100% of our total workforce, meaning employees and contracted workers, with access to nutrition programs by 2030. And the way that we're kind of attacking this goal is represented by what I find to be a very useful visual here on the screen. It's called backcasting, borrowed from the natural step. And what we did is we set our vision. Where do we want to get to, and by when? What does that look like, right? It looks like this 2030 goal. And so what we're working on now is establishing the baseline. What's our current status, and on the basis of that, what do we then need to do? How do we prioritize what impact needs to be created to reach that vision in time? And so we've been pretty extensively using the Workforce Nutrition Alliance scorecard throughout this year, which has been incredibly helpful to kind of give us a common language to talk about many of the things that we likely already do in work sites around the world, but to give us a sense of where are we and how do we prioritize to enhance the quality of these programs. So I'm so happy to share with you that so far we've gone out to 50 sites covering 9 products, 7 countries, and 14,000 workers. So that's just under 20% of our total workforce today. And on the basis of this, of course, it's to create impact. So beyond our direct workforce, we've had a longstanding commitment to supporting health and nutrition in our agricultural supply chains. So these are for farmers and communities from which we source the agricultural material. And so the countries in pink is where we've had recent or current approaches to improving nutrition. And then here in these boxes, you see some call out examples. And I'm happy to talk about any of these in depth at a later time, but for the sake of just our session today, I wanted just to speak about 2 of them. One comes from Ivory Coast, which is where we, for the 2nd year, have worked with the National Nutrition Program to ensure the delivery of essential nutrition services to cashew farming communities. So what does this really look like in practice? So the partners of the government, so UNICEF, Helen Keller International, WHO, they are working with the government to provide the expertise and supplies. But these supplies need to actually get out into these rural areas. And we have a year-round large extension footprint. So where we intervened is we helped mobilize communities, create awareness, let people know that this assistance was for free, why it's important, who's eligible. We made sure not to, have conflicting trainings at the same time so that people could actually participate and benefit from this program. And what I love about this example is it shows how the private sector doesn't have to spend a lot of money or doesn't need to be experts to really make an impact for nutrition. We can leverage our strengths, be it relationships with communities or extension officers that are present year round in these areas. The next example is what's highlighted here from India, where we're working with an Indian NGO under GAIN's Keeping Food Markets Working program. And this is really in response to the disruptions caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, where we're distributing nutritious food baskets to farmers, workers, and farm laborers in cashew and spices supply chains. And what's really interesting about this example is that beyond, the immediate benefits of improved food consumption, we've seen some really interesting other dynamics come out of this program. We've had recipients report savings of up to 10% of their monthly household income because, of course, they didn't have to spend that on food. And then we also got some really unexpected but really encouraging feedback from communities about how it's actually helped improve social inclusion. So in these communities, it's the farmers that supply to Olam that worked with Olam and our partners to help identify the most in need of their farm laborers. So what used to be very transactional relationships, laborers, employers, etc., now suddenly everyone is kind of in it together. And this has had these ripple effects in terms of laborers giving preference to Olam farmers, and Olam farmers saying this has improved labor responsiveness and efficiency as well. So there are these kind of softer benefits, but they actually tangibly turn into business results as well. So what have we learned from all of this? Well, we've learned a great deal about what I think works and certainly still the challenges ahead. The first 2 are what I would consider factors of success here. Partnerships and women's empowerment. I think partnerships are so critical to get the necessary expertise to run these programs. They're also critical to multiply the impact. And when you're working with governments, it has this really important role as well of reinforcing institutional capacity instead of running a parallel program, right? We've all got these shared objectives, so let's reinforce the systems that are there and make them better and stronger. For women's empowerment, I think it's been proven time and time again how critical women's empowerment is to sustainably improving nutrition. So we've seen great success when women are really placed at the heart of the initiatives that we run. But more so than that, I think it's applying the whole lens of women's empowerment to these programs. So for example, in many of our programs and in other programs I'm aware of, often we make use of community-based trainers and facilitators in the sense of, the training of trainers approach. And often we use women because we say, oh, women can effectively, reach everyone in the community. That's great, but compensate them. We shouldn't be adding to women's unpaid work that they in these communities that they have already. So I really wanted to pass that message. The last two on here are what I would consider challenges still today. This first one is around complementary actions, nutrition, education, and even sometimes the direct provision of seeds or planting materials for kitchen gardens, for example, is not necessarily enough to really move the needle on nutrition. We've had program participants who have said, yeah, I totally know what a diverse diet is now, but I can't afford it, or I don't have enough land to make this nice kitchen garden that you've taught me how to do. So it really needs to be part of a broader approach. And it's not really about nutrition mainstreaming. It's about nutrition being an equal part of a broader livelihoods and sustainability approach, and there with its own objectives and indicators. And somewhat linked to this is this last one on measuring impact. Measuring outcome level changes, so how our diet's really improving, takes expertise, capacity, and dedicated time. And this is an area where I think many private sector companies struggle because it's not necessarily in our, natural wheelhouse of competencies. So we need collaboration on this. And I think, the integration of such type of metrics in benchmarks, when they're asked by governments, when they're asked by customers and consumers, this also helps us creates the demand for us to provide that type of data. And similarly, I think there's a lot of room to collaborate with academia. I was reading a study just recently about the links between maize yield and child nutrition and climate change. And the researcher said, well, our key challenge is that agricultural surveys don't include individual dietary indicators. And I read that and I said, here we are, right? We're here, we're running the agricultural surveys, but tell us how to help you learn more about these different dynamics so we can solve the challenge together. My last slide here is, I was asked to end with a message on why other companies should get involved. And I think that there's just so much evidence and experience on the bottom line justification for workforce nutrition. And we heard some of the key points as well from Christina at the start of this session. But I think that the real value of this work, especially at this time, is really about supporting people. Employees and farmers aren't just workers, they're people. And so why I think you should also get engaged in this work is because promoting nutrition helps people live a better life. I think now more so than ever before, people are looking to businesses for responsible leadership to navigate these really uncertain times of health and climate crisis, of growing inequality. And this should be really reason enough to do something that has so many obvious benefits. I think by some estimates, the agriculture sector employs half of the global workforce today. So just imagine how much of an impact we could make if each company in this sector alone just did one thing for nutrition a year between now and 2030. Thanks.
Thank you, Sarah. I really appreciate so much how you are involved and how you take care for your own people and the people in your value chains, and how you raise the topic within your company, within Olam International, to this extent, and that you are testing and giving detailed feedback to our scorecard. Very much appreciated. And now we move to thank you so much for your leadership and being with us. The next person we have here will be from Mexico. So that is wonderful. So that is Rosie Flores, and she is the Global Wellness Manager from Grupo Bimbo. And she will tell us about her journey to reach employees. And Rosia is a part of the Health and Wellness group of the CGF. They are that is a special group within CGF taking care of health and wellness. And we are very, very pleased that you are with us, Rosia. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. So, well, good afternoon and good morning to all the audience. I'm Rosie Flores. So, well, first, thank you for the CEF GAIN and the Workforce Nutrition Alliance for the invitation and trust for sharing this important topic. So, well, let's first talk about Grupo Bimbo today. We are the global leader in the baking industry and an important player in snacks. Our presence today, we operate in 33 countries through America, Europe, Asia, and Africa. We have 202 bakeries and plants and more than 130 associates nowadays. And well, let's go to the next one, please, to talk about nutrition. And well, let's begin with some reflections. Why to invest in nutrition for our workforce? As a nutritionist, I am convinced that nutrition, along with physical activity, are one of the most important determinants of health and well-being. The World Health Organization affirms that consuming a healthy diet through the life course helps to prevent malnutrition in all its forms, as well as a range of non-communicable diseases and conditions. But, well, eating habits are not simple. We all know what is best for us, right? But we may not always make the better choices. Why is that? The way a person or group of people eats, it's not only about personal choices or even nutritional content. It's also determined for a culture, education, access, and economy, and yes, by our professions and workspace, which is a microambient that modulates culture, a way of thinking, and also gives a specific kind of access to food and meals. In this way, as you know, when we talk about improving nutrition, we must define different strategies that impact different areas that influence it. When we give menus to or any kind of meal or food to our employees in our facilities, it's a must that it has to be a nutritional, correct nutritional content, and it has to be the best for their health maintenance and improvement. This is very important. A workplace must be always promoting well-being, never the opposite. Imagine here that you are trying to improve your diet, or you live with hypertension, and you can find a variety of diet in your workplace. That will be hard, right? Or just think about how your food preference or diet has changed according to the food disponibility in your workplace. That really makes a change. So well, in Grupo Bimbo, we understand that a healthy company integrates health and well-being in the company's strategy and has the tools to manage it. Grupo Bimbo's wellness model sets the guidelines to all our operations to follow to promote health and manage physical and psychosocial risks at the workplace. I'm going to focus on correct diet, of course, pillar, which have the purpose of guide our associates so that they can carry out a correct diet, improve their nutritional status, and have access to correct diets in our work centers, together with the commitment to promote breastfeeding also. For achieving this, we ask all our work centers to accomplish these 4 specific actions that show here. So well, I'm going to focus about our healthy canteen programs. The objective of this project is to ensure healthy menus to all our associates in all the bakeries and plants where we give food services. This program has 3 specific action lines that focus on, first one, nutritional training for all the responsible team. 2, menus review and reformulation if it's necessary, and nutritional counseling for our associates. We have a wellness school with different courses and materials so we can approach different topics for them. So well, we develop a checklist. How we do this? We develop a checklist which marks the standards to be fulfilled in every GB's menus canteen. We develop also a training actually available online through our virtual GB University. This training is addressed to the team responsible of this program, like physicians or people in the bakeries that manage the wellness programs. Once they know the basics of a correct diet and how to build a complete and nutritional meals, they adjust and are made to the menus and reviewed by a nutritionist. Sometimes this nutritional can be internal, or sometimes the canteens nowadays have this kind of group that help us manage it. Nutritional orientation is needed, of course, so associates can embrace these changes and learn about them. Once the canteens fulfill this request and the checklist is all complete, a recognition event is carried out. This is very important for the culture of well-being. Why? Because internal communication teams communicate this achievement. The manager of the bakery is invited and they sign a commitment, and they said to all the audience that we are committed to promote healthy diets, and this is an important milestone for the bakery, okay? Then we have a long audits are played along the year, so the standard can remain, because this is not easy sometimes. As I told you, this program needs to be accompanied by constant counseling. We have personal nutritional programs also for associates and family, and also a series of training courses to teach associates the principles of a correct diet. And these videos can also be shared with family members. Through these actions, we work in specific objectives that are increase the consumption of fiber, fruits, and vegetables, reduce the consumption of meals high in fat, sugars, and salt, increase the consumption of plain water, and provide a variety in the diet so employees are free to choose. Okay, thank you. But well, we always have to give them options, right? We promote that there are no good or bad meals or foods. All can be integrated in a balanced diet, but they have to have the tools to manage them and to choose what is best for them. And we have the purpose to give them that choice. And also it's very important, trends shows that people are increasingly aware of the quality of their meals. When they see a successful job promoted by the company, this is reflected in cost, decrease of absenteeism due to the better control of chronic diseases, increased engagement, productivity, and satisfaction. But well, let's go now to the next one and talk about challenges, because this sounds very, very good and very enthusiastic, but there's sometimes it's not easy. At the beginning, the first challenges regarding money, for example, comes from thinking that a healthy menu will cost more money or will have less acceptance. Therefore, the training and sensibilization to all people involved is crucial. Health has to be a value for the company and part of the business, so this becomes successful. The second, but not less important, is associates. Sometimes the employees' resistance have a little resistance to change. More when the community has a very different habits from the ones that we want to promote, okay? So, well, the learning here is that we have to go slowly, maybe not make a wider change, but start with little steps and with this training. So, and involve also the associates and the people here, because then it becomes a program where they are engaged and where it's a program that they are part of, okay? So this is very, very important for the acceptance of these changes. And is in this way, it's not going to be something that seems to be imposed by the company, but it's something that is for the employees. And so they feel part of the program and embrace all the changes. Also very, very important, we need to include the family. When associates are already involved in these programs, they are willing that their kids or spouses embrace this kind of lifestyle. When we include some very little actions for the family since the beginning, for example, give a cookbook, it has so much impact and recognition. Finally, work for nutrition is necessary. This is my main message here. People well-being must be at the center of our agendas. Unfortunately, now we have access to external tools that the CGF and GAIN provide us, reducing time and effort. You can start now, today, doing small changes. I assure you will have big impacts. according to your budget and resources. There is always something you can do. Remember, leaders and family interventions are the key for the success of these programs. And well, thank you very much. And I hope the message is clear. And with this intervention, I can change something in your mind to start doing now healthy programs for your associates regarding nutrition. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Rosia. And it's really wonderful to see your full program and the different facets, and also the importance of leadership commitment. But the leadership commitment can really make a change. So, and this is a great transition to our next speaker, because the next speaker is Diane Brandstetter from the Compass Group. And she has been working over 25 years on how to reach employees via the food services, by caterers. And I'm very keen to learn from you, Diane, how you see, how you create better workforce nutrition at the workplace in the canteens. I give it over to you.
Yeah. Thank you. And I too am delighted to be here. Compass Group is one of the world's largest contract food and services organizations operating in nearly 50 countries. And we serve food in the corporate canteens or corporate catering for, gosh, if we look at the Fortune 500 companies, it's almost all of them. So we do have a huge impact. But we're also in a unique position because we are a guest in our clients' homes. And in fact, most of our workforce is decentralized. So they're not working in a corporate office, but rather they are working in each of our client locations, sourcing and preparing and serving the food that we serve. And because we're a guest in our clients' homes, we can suggest, we can nudge, we can provide guidance, but at the end of the day, we need to follow their plan. So we are always delighted when our clients are engaged with Workforce Nutrition Alliance and have some benchmarks that we can help support. So essentially, our goal is to support our clients' health and wellness goals. And we do that in 3 different ways. You can go back, please. The first is by creating access to a variety of great tasting, better for you menu options. If we don't have a lot of healthy options there and available, then the employees of our clients can't select them. And they're also not available for our own employees to consume during their breaks. We do use science-based criteria that are fairly well aligned with your criteria, but in many cases, our clients will set their own guidance and criteria. Same thing in terms of percentages. Obviously, the more, the better. But in many cases, our clients will say, well, I don't want to chase people away initially, so I'll start at 30% better for you options, or I'll start at 50% better for you options. So again, we can't dictate, we can nudge, we can suggest, we can make sure it's available. The other thing we do is this has to be part of a food environment that encourages well-being. And we do that by providing education, engagement, and excitement. So education in terms of transparency as to what's in the food, nutrition information, things like that to help people make better choices. Education and excitement. We want things to be exciting, and we provide a huge toolbox. Again, our clients have the options to pick and choose, but we provide a huge toolkit of educational events, cafe events to create excitement around healthy eating. And then the final way is by using behavioral change techniques. And this can be anything from the way we set up and arrange the canteen or the cafes, so to make the healthy food the most prominent, the most visible, the first thing that guests see when they walk in, to it could be financial incentives that our clients put in place. We're supportive of those. It could be running loyalty programs. There are a whole variety, and we're constantly looking at behavioral science and consumer behavioral economics to try to figure out new ways to engage consumers and make sure that what they choose, we're nudging them towards the healthy options. So just a few examples of some of the ways that we're creating engagement and excitement. Providing, we have monthly calendars of promotions that focus on the foods that are better for them, whole grains, fruits, vegetables, legumes, focusing on dietary patterns that are more healthy, like the Mediterranean diet, and then focusing on techniques to help them create their own healthier items. So like this Build a Better Sandwich example that really focuses on empowering the guests or our clients' employees to be able to take some ownership over creating their own choices, but ones that are better for them. So one of the most successful things that we've launched about 5 years ago from an empowerment standpoint is the Teaching Kitchen. And the Teaching Kitchen is a platform for our guests, so the employees of our clients, to explore food, culinary, and nutrition literacy that will positively impact their food choices and experiences. It is an active participation event, and our goal here is that most employees spend a good proportion of their time at work, in the work site, but then they also go home and they go home to their families. And I know some of the other speakers have mentioned that engagement with families. So by empowering them to be able to have some culinary skills, some nutrition skills, some food literacy skills by these hands-on Teaching Kitchen experiences, we see that they are feeling much more confident with their ability to go home and help create a healthy food environment for their entire family, not just what they're doing when they're at work. And then we can go ahead and move on. One of the things that we've certainly seen over the last 2 years is that the workplace is not the physical workplace anymore. And we're not sure, certainly in manufacturing and pharma and some businesses, it will remain on site full time. But a huge proportion of the employees and our clients have moved to remote work. And I'm not sure that anytime in the near future, they will return to a physical work site full time. So we set out over the last 2 years to be able to provide a healthy food environment for remote workers as an adjunct to anything that they experience when they're on site. And also for many remote workers, this is their single source of engagement if they're working from home full time. It's the Eat, Live, Do Well website. It is a public site, so I invite all of you to go check it out, take advantage of the resources. And there are several resources here. There are over 200 recipes, many with how-to videos, and you can create meal plans for yourself based on these recipes and also generate a shopping list. So we try to make it extremely easy for workers who are working from home, if that's their new worksite reality, to be able to put together healthy meals for themselves and their families. There are also virtual teaching kitchens. So a lot of Teaching Kitchen on demand videos. You can go in, you can cook together with some of our chefs and registered dietitians. You can cook with celebrity chefs, and there's even a teaching kitchen for kids by kids, if some of the workers want their kids to be engaged in meal preparation. There are lots of other general well-being content, things, tips on staying fit, tips on mindfulness and stress reduction and smart snacking, and all sorts of other things like that. So I think in closing, we're a guest in our clients' homes. We are thrilled when any of them engage with groups like the Workforce Nutrition Alliance, because it helps us help them move in the direction that they'd like to move in a way that's measurable. But I also think we have to realize that the work site of yesterday is not the work site we're going to see tomorrow. And it's probably going to be a hybrid of live and on-site in many industries, certainly in agriculture and production and food production and manufacturing. It will remain on site, but in many, many, many other industries, it will remain at least partially remote and home-based or remote-based for the indefinite future. And so I think we need to take that into consideration and make sure that we're addressing workers' nutrition and well-being needs at wherever they may be physically working from. Thank you.
Thank you, Deanne, and thank you, Deanne, and thank you also for sharing the other side of the worker reality, the hybrid working place. And now it was very interesting, and now we are it also gives a different light on the whole workplace. Thank you so much. And now I would like to ask our speakers, our wonderful guest panel speakers, to put on their camera, and then I would like to go into Q&A, because we have still 8 minutes to go for Q&A, and we have so many different things we heard, and it is a pleasure now to open the floor. And I would start to give the word to Christina.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks all to the panelists, really passionate speakers, really fascinating to hear how different the contexts are, especially in the three companies. Really, it was really fascinating. Thank you. So one of the first questions that's come in that we have is for the three of you ladies who are from Olam, Bimbo, and Compass. You're all three nutrition champions in your organizations. Can you tell us a little bit about what the experience has been like with trying to get, I guess, leadership in your organization behind workforce nutrition? What has that journey been like? Has it been easy? Has it been difficult? Because I know that's often a barrier for those in companies who want to do something, but they really need kind of engagement at the top and agreement at the top, the CEO level or whatever. So maybe we can start with you, Sarah, and then Rocio and Deanne, and curious about your journey as champions in your organization.
Sure. Thank you very much for this question, and I completely agree. I mean, you need to get that commitment and kind of cheerleading from the top to really motivate the action that then happens on the ground. So I guess to directly answer your question, it really depends on the day, whether it's been easy or hard. I think one of the things that makes it easier is when we make the work easy. Instead of saying, oh, we've got to run these 10 different programs, we have a scorecard. Here are the 4 components. Here's the tool, go. And somehow it makes what could be really complicated or overwhelming very concrete. And so I think that having tools like that can be deployed to get this work done does make it easier. Now, in terms of getting the most senior support to this type of work, I guess it really depends on companies, but I could share my experiences. at Olam, being a food and agriculture company, it feels like a natural space for us to work in. And we've gone through different evolutions, but in our global sustainability strategy, which has this purpose of reimagining global agriculture and food systems, nutrition has been identified by, extensive consultation as an area that matters. So having this in our strategy has created space and allowed people to identify with, okay, this is a specific action that's linked to this strategy that everyone has collectively said matters. So that's something that's been really helpful in galvanizing support. And then the last part, which is probably quite unique to Olam, but I know other companies have this, is just having the right type of leader at the top. Our CEO, Sunny, has been a nutrition champion before I was even working in nutrition for Olam. In 2015, he was speaking in front of the UN about childhood stunting, and I had never heard a private sector CEO say stunting before. So having someone that was willing to recognize the challenge and willing to have his team focus on this, I think has really helped us as well to advance. Thanks.
Super, thank you. Rosie?
Well, totally agree with Sarah's comments. For us, it also regarding nutrition, it has been kind of natural. Our purpose nowadays is nourishing a better world, and nutrition matters for us, obviously. And our CEO had always this purpose. But when we talk about reaching employees and going into the bakeries and the business where all things go very, very fast, sometimes it's when it gets quite difficult. But totally agree with Sarah, with a good direction, a clear purpose, and a clear strategy, we can achieve our goals. So there are the people at the bakeries, the physicians, the people responsible of health and wellness. You have to be very clear with them what they need to do and how they need to do that, and the expectations you have about that. So they get clear of their work and what they have to do, and that had be very functional for us.
Super, nice. And Deanne, I know yours is a slightly different context since you're so client focused,
Right.
but yeah, tell us about.
Yeah, and certainly from our standpoint, with Compass Group leadership, they've obviously invested in resources at very high levels to support nutrition and well-being for our clients. From a client standpoint, which is where it really happens, over the last 25 years, I have clearly observed a link between the investment or the interest, the prioritization of nutrition and well-being at the highest level and what happens at a lower level. And it's even sometimes schizophrenic, because sometimes we'll have a CEO of, client who will really be have a vested interest in promoting health and well-being and nutrition for their workforce. And that CEO changes out and it just goes backwards overnight, or vice versa. So we've seen things swing both directions, which tells me that it really has to come from the top. To have everyone empowered, it really needs to come from the top.
Yeah. And maybe written in policy too, so it's not so personality dependent all the time. Yeah, great, thank you. Another question is aimed for Viktoria from the benchmarking. The question is that we see results from the food and agriculture benchmarks that most companies engage in maybe one of the 4 pillars and not all 4 pillars. So what would you say, how can the benchmark results be used to encourage companies to scale up their engagement across more pillars of workforce nutrition?
Yes, thank you. And I think the testimonies of today were really a great catalyst for that, to be honest. I think that's the best, really, to hear from companies themselves, challenges and what path those companies have taken, that's the best incentive, I think, for others as well. And we try to really highlight those best practices, highlight what peers are doing to just really incentivize and create a movement for more involvement, and so to really highlight what can be done. And also, and you know, Nutrition for Growth Summit is just around the corner, and as has been mentioned, the self-assessment tool of the Workforce Nutrition Alliance is a great tool to really identify where a company stands at the moment. That, together with the WBA scorecard, really could hopefully, you know, bring companies forward to maybe do an additional commitment before the end of the year to really step it up, and to make sure this great momentum keeps on going, and we really create a difference for people's lives.
Excellent. Thank you. Those are the questions. I know it's the top of the hour, so back over to you, Barbara, to close. Thanks.
Yeah, I want just to follow up with Victoria's ending sentence. I would encourage you to look at the N4G possibilities, and we have 2 side events that we are hosting, and we will inform you about the 2 side events towards the N4G. And I'm very, very grateful to all of you, to Victoria, Diane, Sarah, Christina, Rocio. And it was, yeah, you are for me the leaders and the ones that do nutrition from the heart, and that can really influence the well-being of so many other people in your company and others, and be an example. Thank you, all of you, and I wish the audience, the listeners, a good day or afternoon. And also to take some of the ideas into your life, and maybe tomorrow at the shower, and when you're taking a shower, then you think what you can do. So, and if you can always come back to us, we are open for you. The Workforce Nutrition Alliance is ready for every person that comes and wants to engage with better nutrition at the workplace. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.